Before we start the show, I have a quick question for you. Is your resume stuck in the rejection pile? At Resume Assassin, I create powerful resumes that showcase your skills, experience, and achievements, getting you noticed by recruiters. I'll also optimize your LinkedIn profile, transforming it into a magnet for opportunity. Visit resumeassassin.com today. Take charge of your job search. Visit resumeassassin.com. Welcome to Resume Assassin Presents Recruiting Insider, where I create a safe space to have candid conversations with recruiters and LinkedIn thought leaders. This podcast promises to inform, entertain, and inspire. Karolina is a seasoned recruiter with 5 years of experience under her belt. Originally from the Czech Republic, Karolina's journey to the U.S. began in 2015 when she came to play Division I basketball for Siena College. Since then, she's stayed on to pursue a career in HR, finding her niche in recruiting. Today, we will be diving into a crucial aspect of the hiring process, the candidate experience. High level, what do you want job seekers to take away from your message today?
I just want to let them know that recruiters are here to help you. Lately, if you've been on LinkedIn and now you are active on LinkedIn, there is so much negativity about recruiters. At the end of the day, candidates' experience is one of the most important things for recruiters, besides obviously finding the right fit for companies. So I just want to kind of shine a good light on the industry and talk about the candidate's experience from the recruiter point of view, but also what candidates can do better in terms of the hiring process.
Great. How'd you get into recruiting, Karolina? And tell us one of your craziest recruiting stories.
Oh my God. There's a lot, but I'll start with how I got into recruiting. So when I graduated, as you said, with HR background, I knew I wanted to be in HR. I wasn't sure if it's going to be, generalist role or a recruiter. Didn't really have an idea what, I'm an agency recruiter, so what third party is, but I interviewed with a local company while at recruiting, and the owner, it's a women-owned business, so I love that. Also the same Siena alumni, love that too. And I played basketball my whole life, Division I in college, and I knew I wanted to still be in like a competitive role. So something with, commission, something with quota. Didn't want to do sales, but it kind of all worked out, and I've been with the same company since, and I love what I do. In terms of crazy stories, so we work with people, right? So there is so many. I think in terms of interviewing candidates, I've had a candidate who didn't, know it's a video call, and when I told them they have to turn on a video, it was like a towel wrapped around them, literally still getting ready for their day. Then like vaping, that's not common, but we've seen that more than once. Yeah, I think maybe on a good side, a crazy recruiting story was I was able to help a military guy, got like $30,000 increase. That was awesome. Just like that's what we do, and what we love about recruiting is just helping people. So that was like a crazy good recruiting story.
What do you believe? Let me start that over. What do you believe constitutes a positive candidate experience, and why is it important?
So I think no matter if the candidate gets the job, they should be able to return to the company down the road. So not burning bridges. From the recruiter's point, it's communication is the key, but it starts with a job description too. Like creating a job description that's clear to the candidate, not having 6+ round interview process with 2 take-home assignments, and then communication, like giving the candidate feedback on and every after interview about the timeline, where they are in a process. So open communication, I would say, is the most important thing.
I hear that a lot. Communication and transparency are the top two. You mentioned the interview process and how there shouldn't be, 600 rounds of interviews that are all 4 hours long. What's an ideal interview process?
So I think it depends on the level of the candidate's experience and if it's an entry level role, I think 1 to 2 max, and I wouldn't even think and take home assignment unless it's a technical role in like IT or anything like that. But I would say you can do 2 rounds of interviews and get a really qualified candidate for entry level role. For a higher level role, I mean, I would max out at 3, max 4, but you can always, if you need to get more people interview the candidates, just doing like more of a panel interview where you have more hiring managers interview the candidate at the same day, or just do back to back. So that would be, the ideal, but I would say it really depends on the level of the candidate.
I love the idea of a panel interview where you can kind of knock the entire interview out with everybody that's involved in the position, because I've heard of job seekers who have an entire day's worth of interviews and they basically have to repeat themselves every hour on the hour with 8 different people, whereas if they could have just had a panel interview, they could have knocked all of that out in 1 hour in one swift interview.
Yeah, it's tiring. We hear it all the time. Candidates are tired doing multiple interviews and then, getting ghosted, stuff like that. So I think being more efficient in the interview process, that's part of the candidate experience for sure.
Can you share any memorable experiences where a candidate's journey through the hiring process significantly impacted their perception of the company?
When the process was really bad, we've had a client. So as a third-party agency recruiter, part of my job is to also educate my clients, right? Like if we put this candidate through 5, 6 rounds, I know they have other opportunities in a pipeline where timing is really important. So really educating the clients on the interview process is important, but some clients don't listen, right? So we did have a perfect candidate for a role with the industry experience in the not-for-profit high level role, and they just drag it out with a bunch of assignments to take home and projects, presentations, which nobody wants to do that. That's a free labor, and they end up losing that candidate just because of timing. The candidate really liked the company, but he couldn't wait because of other offers he had on the table he would lose.
So for our listeners in the audience who are moving through an interview process, what are some red flags or even some green flags that they might look out for during the entire process?
I would start with green flags, which in a lot of states now it's mandatory. Like in New York State, there was a transparency law passed in terms of posting salary on the job descriptions. Green flag. I think salary should be the first conversation in a phone screen with a recruiter, because we don't want to waste anybody's time. So green flag if it's not that even in a state that's required posting the job descriptions, and then just be the company being transparent about the interview process. So what I do in my first phone screen with the candidate, I'll tell them this is a role that's going to be 2, max 3 interviews. They are looking to make a decision within 4 weeks. And then just the constant communication with the candidates, following up on after interviews with the candidates, before interviews, prepping the candidate for the interview, sharing with them what the hiring managers are looking for, even the simple things like what should I wear, because you don't want to underdress, you want to overdress. And then on red flags, that would be kind of the opposite in terms of being really secretive about the salary, about the job responsibilities. If it's, the role is posted as remote, but then they'll tell you in a second interview, like, oh, actually you have to be in office 3 times a week. So just looking, for that transparency again, that would be kind of how to avoid some of the red flags and some of the companies who might be secretive in the interview process.
In your opinion, what are the key elements that really contribute to a seamless and enjoyable application process?
Um, Job description that's well put together, that has again salary, if it's hybrid, remote, full in the office. In the interview itself, I talking to not just the hiring manager, but maybe even bringing some of the employees or team members in the interview to really understand kind of the day to day of the job. I think that's always great if it's a role that's either hybrid or in the office. I like when the candidates go on site and see the office and kind of get a better understanding of the culture of the company. And then just at the end, when it comes to an offer, just really, delivering what was promised in terms of the salary range or any additional bonuses or, stocks or anything that was discussed.
Yeah, so you're looking out for that job description, making sure that it's really clear. They're communicating with you throughout the entire process. If you can go in and see if you're actually a culture fit or see if the culture actually is what they're saying it is, and then making sure that the salary and the benefits and everything is on point. I think that you're absolutely right. Those are critical elements to make sure that it's a seamless process for everyone. So how can companies effectively balance the need for this efficiency in the hiring process with the importance of still providing a personalized experience?
Yeah, I think just having really structured interview process, not necessarily in a sense of, just having structured questions in the interview, but really making sure the recruiter and the hiring manager are on the same page what they are looking for. So that communication, that's mainly for internal recruiters rather than me as third party, but just having that relationship and the recruiter really knowing what the hiring manager is looking for, and then providing that seamless transition with hiring managers getting timely feedback back to the recruiter, so then the recruiter can get back to the candidate. That's where oftentimes where the lack of the communication is from one or the other party, and then just include us as a third party. So I think that will help kind of with the seamless process, and it definitely takes time and practice, but I think once company has the routine and the hiring managers and recruiters are on the same page, then they will see the benefit. They will see more acceptance rate in the offer. They'll see less candidates dropping off during the process just because they accepted another offer. So they will see the benefit, and at the end of the day, it just benefits everyone.
When I think about the interviewing process, I've spoken with recruiters who have discussed creating a playbook of interview questions, essentially, which can really help all of the recruiters be on the same page, but it can also probably help with that efficiency aspect. Could you give us any specific examples of interview questions that might help facilitate that efficiency within the process?
Yeah, so for us as third party, it really depends on what industry I'm in. So I can give you an example in healthcare. Like right now I'm recruiting for social work. So that interview is going to be very different than when I interview for, manufacturing engineer. So I always like to look at the job requirements and then look at the candidate's resume. And that's essentially the same process the candidate should do to be preparing for an interview, but I do it as a recruiter too, and then ask really specific questions that would tie to the job description, so then I can give my client the best kind of bio about the candidate and how they fit the job. So for me, I have some obviously basic questions I ask the candidate, but a lot of it is based on their resume and the job that I'm looking to fill.
Sure. So we've already discussed communication and how important that is in really shaping the candidate experience. How can companies improve their communication with candidates throughout the entire process?
So that's something a lot of people do talk about now, even on LinkedIn with AI, right? So in terms of applicants, you can have some type of process where you send automated messages if it's even before the phone screen. So that's one thing companies can do. Second thing, once it gets into the interview process, me personally, I like to really talk to the candidates if they don't get the positions, to give them some feedback, but also just create that relationship so they can, stay in touch with me down the road. So even for in-house recruiters, I think really making sure, even if it's a negative feedback, which, those are the hardest calls we have to make, especially if it's down the road, third interview, or if it's between two candidates and you have to make the call, the person don't get a job. But I don't think I ever had a candidate who was mad at me that I called them and that they didn't get a job. They appreciate that call, even though if it's not good news. So I would say really making sure, being organized, that you get back to the candidates, especially if it's after they already interview with the company.
A lot of candidates and a lot of people that I see on LinkedIn are being ghosted by recruiters. To any of our listeners, what would you recommend they do, or how would you recommend that they reach out to recruiters?
Yeah, that is a hot topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, there is always going to be bad recruiters or bad people in every industry. In my network, I really don't have, I only see really good recruiters who care about the candidate's experience, but I know there are bad recruiters out there who ghost, and maybe they don't do it intentionally. Maybe it's understaffed. If you see how many layoffs were happening across the talent acquisition industry, now recruiters have to handle 50, 80 recs for one person, and it was maybe 20 2 years ago. So I think for candidates, don't take it personally. Move on. I would say you can reach out to recruiter, once, twice. If they don't get back to you after a second time, just move on, and don't take it personally. I think it's not good from either side to burn bridges, because then most likely the candidate will want to approach the company again if they have an opening. But at the end of the day, that's the candidate's experience, and if you see that red flag, maybe you just dodge the bullet with this one.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of great things. And, if you look at a lot of the layoffs that have happened recently, recruiters have been affected by those layoffs too. So like you said, where maybe you had 30 requisitions even a year ago, now you have 80 requisitions. So they're just having trouble keeping up. And then, another part of it is I've spoken with a lot of recruiters who also talk a lot about empathy and how to really put yourself in the shoes of the job seeker, because it's such a challenging place to be in. There are a lot of people on the market today who are at the risk of losing their home. They can't pay their bills. They're worried about feeding their kids. And so just having empathy and, putting yourself in their shoes goes a long way, because like you said, even if they're not going to get the job, if you just let them know, hey, they went with somebody else, then at least there's that closure so that they know they can move on and keep applying. From your perspective, how can companies leverage technology to enhance the candidate experience without really sacrificing that human touch?
Yeah, so I think we talked about it a little bit in terms of like the initial application. If there's no interaction with the recruiter, like using some type of automated message, as a applicant, I would be okay with that if I never talk to the company. Down the road, just really using technology in terms of being organized. So if it's just a simple calendar reminder to get in touch with a candidate or going through your ATS and setting reminders there. I like to send emails or call candidates before the weekend or if there's a major holidays, because nobody likes to wait, and even if it's no update is always an update type of thing, where I would call them or send them an email. Don't have an update yet, but hopefully I'll be in touch next week. So there is, with AI, there is so many different softwares right now, but even leveraging your ATS, applicant tracking system, can be really useful to be organized and don't ghost.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're going to use AI for anything, use it to better communicate with the candidates you're working with, right? How do you approach gathering feedback from candidates about their experience throughout the hiring process? And how do you use that feedback to make improvements?
That's a great question. I think, again, communication, as a third party, I am still representing my client. So it's not, I still definitely do gather the experience with interviewing with the company's hiring manager or the company's recruiter, and do get the feedback back to the candidate, back to the client. But even in terms of my own improvements, I definitely like to ask feedback from the candidate if there's something we can do better as a company, as a recruiting agency, and how their process was, even if they get the job or don't get a job. So just, I think with recruiting, it's a lot of creating a relationship with the candidate, and the more you talk to the candidate and try to get to know them and really understand what they are looking for, the more open they are with you and they trust you more. So then they are more willing to give you feedback too.
Do you have any stories where a candidate was interviewing with a client and they came across a situation where they didn't know what to do and you had to advise them in some way?
Yeah, I actually have a really funny one. So one of our clients, my candidate interview there, was my first candidate who ever interviewed with the client. She came there, it was summertime, she had her dress on and little slip-ons, and she came to the office, and they don't wear shoes in the office. So she was like, this is interesting. I kind of wish I knew. Maybe I would wear socks or something. So now, we do tell the candidate, like, just so you know, this client, they don't wear shoes in the office. They have carpets everywhere. It's a, clean place, but maybe, be prepared for that.
So it's good to have that recruiter that has that insider knowledge to let you know, hey, you got to expect this from this employer. In today's super competitive job market, how can companies differentiate themselves and really create an amazing candidate experience that it truly attracts the top talent?
Yeah, so I think this market is just bananas. It's really hard for candidates. We see postings that have thousands of applicants. I just saw recently a posting on LinkedIn. The recruiter opened the job on Friday. By Monday, he had to already close it because they had enough candidates. So I think there is still need for the qualified applicants to apply, but it's not as 2022 where it was so employee market. Now it's employers market. So but that's why I still like to talk about candidates experience, because even though companies do get a lot of qualified candidates right now, it's still so important to provide that good candidate experience, because markets change. So few years, hopefully not years, few months from now, we'll see when it will switch. They will need to, the candidates will remember if they don't have a good candidates experience with a certain company. So I think it's really important for the reputation of the company and not to burn bridges. And it's the stuff we talk about, like the job description, the communication, not doing many rounds of interviews that are unnecessarily, and then just making decision time wise reasonably. I think the time to hire average is like 36 days. So, just really make sure you pick the candidate within a month, not, 2 months, close the role, put it on hold, and then start recruiting again.
So looking ahead, what trends do you see really shaping the future of the candidate experience?
I think candidates are more allowed now. So I think companies do notice that if there is a bad candidate's experience, I'm not supporting that, but candidates go out on LinkedIn and write about it, right? I don't think it's the best thing to do, but it does happen. So I think companies are being more careful about, not dragging out the interview process and taking advice from agency recruiters like us, or really spending more time to, have the meeting between the talent acquisition and hiring managers. So I think I'm hoping it's going the right direction. I do see it because, you don't want to lose the qualified candidates just because of the length of the interview process.
Absolutely. It's good to know that we have great recruiters out there who are advocating for our job seekers. Okay, time for a few rapid fire questions.
I'm ready.
How many emails do you get per day?
Over 100.
What stands out to you during a 5-second resume scan?
Education, experience, and hard skills.
Biggest candidate red flag?
Ooh, coming to interview totally unprepared, not knowing anything about the company, just very, lax.
Best interview tip?
Be prepared. You have to figure out how to stand out in this market, and preparation is one of the most important things to do before interview.
One industry secret or something that we probably don't know about recruiters?
We are super competitive, especially in the agency. We are very competitive.
It's more of a sales position than most people know, I think.
Definitely on the business development side, but
Yeah.
even with the placements, we truly do care about, placing the right candidates rather than the numbers. But I think kind of the drive to help people and have that long-term placements and satisfied clients, you have to have a little bit of that competitive spirit in you.
Yeah. Last question. What does success look like for you as a recruiter?
I think happy candidates, whether they get a placement through me or on their own. I always try to, advise candidates on even interview tips, resume tips, even if I know they are interviewing other places, and I do encourage them to interview other places. So I think, a satisfied candidate, I think it always pays off. I believe in karma, so I always try to do good things even if I don't get the placement. But at the end of the day, like helping the candidates get a job, which you work more hours than you are at home with your loved ones. So I think having a position you enjoy and you don't drag Mondays or Sunday evenings, it's really important. So that's the main satisfaction.
What's next for you, and where can we find you on social media?
So you can find me mainly on LinkedIn. My name, Karolina Severova. I've been, trying to be more active on LinkedIn the past year. It's definitely paying off. In my personal life, I'm going to France in a few weeks. So I'll be out of the office. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Karolina, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. I will be releasing episodes every Monday, so be sure to subscribe on the platform that you are watching this, give it a 5-star review, and we'll see you next time.